I'd like to call to order a regular Town Commission meeting of January the 23rd. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please call the roll.
Mayor Tompeck,
Here.
Vice Mayor Fender,
Here.
Commissioner Kurzman,
Yes.
Commissioner Mayfield.
Here.
Okay, we have a proclamation today for recognition of outstanding service for Crystal Gomez. What?
Yes.
Mr. Daniels, why don't you go ahead?
Okay. Crystal Gomez, who's right here with us, and her son. Crystal was hired by us in October of 2021 to work as an administrative assistant in the building department. She previously had a position in Port St. Lucie as the tax and licensing clerk in their division there. And then over the past 2 years here, she has proven to be a great hire. She's an employee that's a team player and is always looking out for the best interests of the town. She's always ready to help any staff member that needs assistance, and more times than not, if someone mentions an issue or a special project that needs to get completed, she'll jump in without even being asked and do the best she can to get it done. Crystal's demonstrated her self-starter work ethic several times during her tenure with the town. A few months after she started with the town, she initiated an internal audit on building permit values that had been previously submitted in the system. She discovered 10 permits that had been submitted with the valuation of work being significantly underestimated. For those who aren't aware, the building fees are predicated on the value of the building or the construction that's going to be done. And theoretically, they're supposed to be honest and give the amount that the construction's supposed to be. In this case, she was able to find that there was a $3.5 million underestimated value, and when it was recalculated, it meant that there was additional permit fees due of $92,000. These were billed and ultimately paid by those individuals. In July of 2023, Crystal once again took the initiative on her own and did an audit on previously submitted fees to the Department of Business and Professional Regulations. Part of the fees, again, that we collect have to go on to the state. So Crystal once again was able to determine that the town had been overpaying the state for building permits by $32,000. The state's normal procedure is to credit the account versus refunding the account. However, with a little bit of help from the finance director, she was able to get the state to agree to refund the $32,000. So the total that she was able to recover for the town is $124,000. Crystal also took the initiative to plan the remodel of the front desk area, and with obviously everybody's help, but the idea came up of bettering the work area and making the front lobby area being more pleasant for visitors as they come in. So I recommended to the commission that we issue this certificate of outstanding service to Crystal Gomez. Crystal usually shies away from getting all this recognition, but obviously it's an understatement what I just read to you. She really goes the extra mile, and we really appreciate it. Crystal, thank you. Mayor?
Can you come down?
Hands down.
Better listen to her.
Okay. Got your smile. There we go.
Congratulations, Crystal.
That was awesome.
pursuit of the town's organizational goals, and sincere dedication to you, the town social board. January 2022.
It's a phase 2 thing.
Yeah. No, that should be phase 4 then, right? That would be the numbering scheme. Got it.
Great. Keep up the good work.
Would you like to say a few words?
Yes, you're allowed.
I appreciate it, that my work doesn't go unnoticed.
Aw.
Thank you, Commissioners, Vice Mayor.
Thank you.
It's nice when we can recognize the
Yes.
great work that our employees do.
And she has really cute puppies.
Okay, we have, I haven't been given any public comment slips, so that brings us down to additions, deletions, or changes to the agenda.
I'll accept the agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Motion to accept. Sorry.
And we have a second?
I second.
Please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Fender,
Aye.
Commissioner Kurzman,
Yes.
Commissioner Mayfield,
Yes.
Mayor Tompeck.
Yes. Consent agenda. Anybody wish to ask any questions or pull any of the items?
Move to accept the consent agenda as provided.
I'll second.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Kurzman,
Yes.
Commissioner Mayfield,
Yes.
Mayor Tompeck,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fender.
Aye.
Okay, we have no public hearings for ordinances, first or second reading, no new resolutions, no old business. That brings us to new business, chamber use fee. Town manager, why don't you go ahead and introduce this item?
Yes, as was discussed previously, we do have individuals that are utilizing our facility. One's a business that, ends up meeting here once a week. The other one is usually in January and February, we have the homeowners groups, and they come in at night. Since we've increased the security aspect with the nighttime use of the facility, we've been having staff members come and unlock and then lock up the town hall instead of what was customary of giving out a key. I think the first time we rekeyed the locks in a long time, we gave out the key for a meeting, and the individual swore that they'd be back and, bring the key in the next morning, which has been the way that we've done business in the past, and they never showed up. And then, it was several phone calls and trying to get them to come back and bring in the key. Obviously, the security part of it is somebody can make a duplicate copy of the key. We like to think that everybody's honest and has the right thought in their hearts and don't want to do anything that would deter the town from having business. But as we know, with the technology that we have in the computer system, if we left somebody in here without any type of guidance or supervision, then, we could have a problem. So that's kind of one of the procedures that we started looking at with it. And then the other one was just the situation of businesses using the facilities. And I've managed to talk individually with 3 out of the 4 of you, and I think I've mentioned to everyone is that I did meet with Jessica from Premier Realty, and they're the major users during the day of the facility, other than the different departments and their staff and functions that we have and events for the town. And so we pretty much came up with an idea of, having the availability for businesses that have an interest in the town. So it wouldn't be a business that is located in Jupiter or somewhere else that they wanted to come in and, put on some type of a program here. So it would definitely have to have an interest in the town, and then charge a nominal fee. And we, did some research as to what other facilities And Jessica herself had mentioned to me that, the library here is $50 to $100, and we kind of kicked around a $50 fee for use of the facilities. So whereas my memo that you have, writing it in advance, is directing about staying away from businesses, I think after having a meeting of the minds with Jessica and chatting with you all in reference to this, I'm willing, as always, it's your policy that we set anyhow. All I'm doing is lobbing up a recommendation to you. But I think looking at the historical part of having certain firms have access to it within reason, I still would like to have a use agreement, setting down some of the rules that, we talked about in reference to bringing in items and the activities. If it's, not a, can't think of the word right now. I got my fog. So, but anyhow, so I don't know if Jessica wants to come up and address something that I haven't, but do you want to step up and say something? Sure.
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners for hearing this out. But having access to this facility for us is an important part of being part of this town. And as my email directed to you, and then following that, Bob and I met, and I appreciate your all's time. I'm hoping we can come to some sort of middle ground where obviously if we cause any sort of damage, I would have expected in the past and certainly want in the future to take care of that, but it is certainly a nice benefit of being here to be able to walk across the street and host a weekly meeting here and under reasonable conditions, without creating any additional, monetary challenges for the town or anything like that. We'd like to be able to continue to do so. I feel like it's a reasonable request. So happy to answer any questions or, find some middle ground here, but that is our goal.
And you wouldn't necessarily have any objection to a small fee as he's...
No, I mean, I think if $50 is something that you guys would consider, I think, you can use the large library space for $100 that seats 300 people right down here, down the street 2 miles or so. So I feel like for a space this size, as Bob and I discussed, I think $50 is reasonable. And, if that helps offset a staff cost, although we only use it during normal business hours. So we did discuss that, and again, it probably wouldn't impact us, at least at this point, but it does seem fair that if you're using the space after hours and therefore the town is incurring additional costs, there would probably be a larger offset, but I leave that to you all, obviously. But within reason, I'm willing to go along with whatever you guys feel is appropriate.
Vice Mayor Fender?
Sure. So obviously, I've talked to the town manager. Ms. Bonner and Premier Realty are an important part of our town. I mean, we're blessed to have them here, and they do a lot to support us in other times of the year. So I'll let you guys, in my opinion, you guys can work it out in a way that's most amicable. As I told the town manager, I believe this is the people's house, and I don't see us precluding people that are part of the community from using it. But the security issue is interesting to me, and so the fact that we're still on physical keys is odd. I would think in today's world we would have access codes and electronic access capability, but I mean, obviously budgets are a thing, so maybe over time, long-term goal would be to find a more eloquent way to access the facility other than physical keys that can get lost and into the wrong hands to protect some of our internal assets. But obviously I'm going to certainly try to accommodate Premier Realty if I can, and I'll certainly listen to other comments, but I'm in favor of maintaining access for Premier Realty.
Mr. Mayfield?
Yes, I'm in favor of continuing. I think the $50 sounds reasonable. Again, to Vice Mayor, I almost called you Commissioner Fender's point. I think that's best discussed, but $50 seems reasonable. I also agree a key doesn't seem wise. It's just not smart to keep free keys out to property that the town owns. And I do agree, it's in the memo about the after hours coverage to make it worth the staff person's while. That's a big ask to come in after hours and open and close something. So I think that all that you guys have discussed seems reasonable. I don't know, maybe I don't think you guys are overusing it, but a limit to if someone's asking every day, that seems a bit much. I'm not saying you guys, but some kind of limits, or however you want to make a little agreement or procedures.
Mr. Kurzman?
Yeah, pretty much what I've heard sounds very fair on all ends. To come up with a reasonable fee, and this way everyone's clean, whatever it is at that point. Nobody should have a key other than the employees here. And as far as the HOAs using the facility, you got all residents in there. If they could do it during the day, it would be great. Otherwise, even the HOA should turn around and at least pay us the fee to open and close the place. That much, I think, would be reasonable instead of the town incurring the cost if Jeff has to come, for example, to open and close. Whatever we pay Jeff, that should be about the best. I think that would be reasonable on all ends.
Okay, do we feel that it's necessary for staff to develop a user agreement? I mean, a relatively simple
Right.
user agreement. I feel like we shouldn't necessarily be having meetings here after 4 o'clock, that the HOAs ought to be able to somehow come in before 4, because after that, security does become an issue, I think. Although one would think that people wouldn't want to rob the police station, but you never know. Okay.
It would be difficult though, because after hours, people work.
Well, yeah, but I think if you're talking HOAs, they don't meet that often, they can probably somehow, I mean, we can do it if you absolutely think it's necessary, but I think it'd be a lot simpler if we didn't allow meetings after 4 o'clock. But, once again, you can work that out and come up with some kind of a user agreement.
Definitely, and I think, at least my exposure with the HOAs that are using the facility in January and February, I've met some resistance with them modifying when they meet, the time that they meet. So we might, obviously, even, if it was a meeting right at 4 o'clock and they went to 5 o'clock, it's not that cumbersome I mean, I could stay here myself and, cover, that time frame, just as long as I don't have other things I have to do for the town. But, that's, I'm willing to facilitate the use of the facility as much as I can. I do like the suggestion that the Vice Mayor brought up about some type of electronic key system, and we have looked into that in the past, but we are looking into that again, of using it. But, it's still, you need to make sure that the place is still locked up at the end and the door's not propped open. I came in one morning and the side door ended up being propped open. So whether they're carrying something out to the car and took the emergency exit instead of the regular exit and then forgot to come back, I don't know. But those are things that we just have to check on, and I know, through the chief's work with the police department, they've been coming and making sure that that the place is locked up after hours as well. But in my memo, and I talked to Jessica about this, it does, her group is not a security problem, and I didn't mean to have that inferred in the memo that I wrote, and that wasn't meant, because she is correct. They are here during the daytime, and aside from, the normal wear and tear that we have and the maintenance, but we would be maintaining the restrooms anyhow during the daytime. So, but I think we can come to some type of an agreement, and we'll move on. And then with the HOA, I'll see what type of feedback I get with the fee. I have talked to some that are already scheduled for February, and I have told them that there's a possibility that there might be a fee instituted for it, and it didn't seem to be bothersome to them, because it's just more convenient for them to have the facility afterwards. But I think the 4 o'clock rule is a good rule for any other functions other than the HOA meetings. So.
Bob, if I may, we run into a similar security issue at Premier because we have 50 people with access and alarm and all that. There are very reasonable alarm companies nowadays that you'll get an alert if a door is propped open for more than X seconds, et cetera. So it might be worth looking into for $600 a year or something.
Okay.
You know, something along those lines. So I'm alerted if the building didn't get alarmed and, you know, who came and who went and all that, so.
Okay, great.
It'd probably be a pretty, and I'm happy to share that contact
Okay,
info if you'd like, so.
great.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your continued support of our town.
So if you're all in agreement, I'm going to move forward with those parameters.
Okay.
Okay. All right, we're down to discussion item, cell phone tower update. Is there any information you want to share with us other than the attachment to the agenda?
That's pretty much what we were able to do. Originally, you know, I think as I mentioned before, it was planned on the south side, and I think most everybody that have agreed to, if they had to have the cell phone tower and they put it up on the south end, at least it would have been blocked by the trees more than it is sticking out like a sore thumb. You know, I have complained to DOT and for their lack of transparency, and all of a sudden having this occur. So, but as usual with the state agency, they, you know, weren't too sympathetic to my plight. So, but it's there, and short of, you know, trying to find some other way or around of mitigating that, which haven't given up on. So it's I'm still looking into that.
Vice Mayor Fender, I thought maybe you could give us a technical discussion about this in addition to any questions you might have.
My discussion is going to be less technical, but I have to say, when I drive by it, I feel like I'm driving through Minecraft. You know, I don't know who came up with the design of this beautiful tower, but it seems to me that we could probably go back to them and say, I guess the reason you painted it green was that you wanted it to look like a tree, but it's an odd-looking tree, a Minecraft tree, maybe. So
Well-
I wonder if we could go to them and ask them if they could perhaps put some branches on the tree, you know, or something. You know,
All those look so awful. They look so phony, most of them.
or maybe paint it white, so it's absolutely not a tree, it's actually
Right.
a cell tower. I
Or
mean, we need
blue.
the technology, but,
You know, light blue would be nice against the back.
I don't know,
probably.
but it's ridiculous.
Yes.
looking, you know.
Well, you know, the
But
vultures in the
please-
morning are a nice touch, though, having them on top of
Yeah, awesome.
the trees would have birds.
But I have seen cell towers that actually look somewhat organic. I mean, if there was a way for them to see if there were any options for us to dress that up at all, you know.
I'll be more than happy to reach out.
Commissioner Mayfield?
Yes, I think that seems like a good plan to see if they can make it look a little bit better. And I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this because I remember when we discussed this before, but since it's there, is it only going to be T-Mobile or can other carriers get on board?
I wish other carriers could, but
I-
it's now it's slated just to be T-Mobile's use.
Who's in charge of that?
The
T-Mobile?
company that has the lease, which is T-Mobile.
Okay.
Well, it's a subsidiary of it, but it all falls under their umbrella. But I would think they'd make more money if they,
Yeah, I know that there are other issues with cell phone reception, other carriers like AT&T, so.
Commissioner Kurzman?
Yeah, one thing would be nice if they put some landscaping around the base at least, so it doesn't look too industrial, I guess, or it does have a horrible look, even at the base, if they could put something to soften the blow, soften the look over there. And I believe it is a possibility if another carrier did go to T-Mobile, they can go and offer T-Mobile some money to cut back on their expense. But that's entirely up to T-Mobile, if I'm correct. I think that's how it works. 'Cause
Yes.
A lot of these towers do have multiple carriers. And the carrier will negotiate with the carrier to put the tower up. So that's something that I don't know a lot about, but just a little bit from where I used to live. So that's a possibility.
My only
Mayor
other
Fender.
thought about this is that you can now physically see the physical footprint of what this device looks like, and I wonder if maybe there is an opportunity for the town to make some revenue by allowing another similar structure on our property that we actually get revenue from. I mean, if they're never going to allow other competitive cell carriers onto that tower, you know, to me, some people despise it. Being a technologist, I understand the value of it, but there are ways to put cell antennas around in a reasonably attractive way. And so I'd like to see, Verizon and AT&T have a shot to increase the signal on the peninsula. So, it doesn't have to be there. It could be somewhere else. Could be on this building, for
I'm all
instance.
for that, too. Okay, any other questions or comments on that? That brings us to our town attorney, who's made a guest appearance here tonight. It's nice to see you, Glenn.
So I try to come to the second meeting, Susan the first. And really, this Form 6, I think you've all heard this multiple times. I know Commissioner Mayfield just saw this exact same presentation last week at the Treasure Coast. I don't know how much detail you want me to go page by page, or do you just want me to do the 5-minute overview? What's your pleasure?
Why don't you do mine for me?
Yeah, that's the
Agree
hardest
with
part.
that. I think a 5-minute overview would be fine, unless
Okay. So basically, with the Form 6. everyone a notice. I haven't spoke to the supervisors yet. I'm assuming they're still going to keep mailing the notice out, but the form now has to be filled out electronically. It's no longer the paper form that you would get, fill it out and send it back in.
Don't read
Mayor
anything
Fender?
in my question, but is the process for delinquency any different than the Form 1 process for delinquency? I mean, if you don't get it in by July 1st, they
More
treat you-
expensive.
Yeah, more expensive.
that mean?
They've increased it to up to, I think, $20,000.
I think you have it in here, right?
Yeah, the previous cap, I think, was either 1,500 or 2,500.
Well, I'm just saying, Form 1, if you didn't get it turned in time.
This would be the civil penalty, right? You're still going to have that Form 1, and I'll double check that, but I think you still have that same penalty for every day you're late. There's $25 a day, up to a max. But this has a different penalty that if you don't file it, Commissioner Ethics brings you up on quote charges, you could have a penalty of up to $20,000.
All right.
Basically, it's
Was there
another,
ever, I don't ever recall a penalty for Form 1.
if you were late filing Form 1, like 90 days late, you had a certain period of time, they would assess you $25 a day. I mean, I've looked it up, I've seen some folks that have had $1,500 fines because that was the maximum that you could get for being late.
What if you never filed the Form 1?
1,500 would still have been the maximum.
Did you get the other stuff also? The
You could have-
suspension, the
You
removal?
could have got
Okay.
suspended, removed, yes, you could have had everything else except for the civil penalty of 20,000. That's the
Okay,
new- That's a
okay.
new one.
And there's forfeiture of salary.
Oh, okay.
Well, that's why I have up there the failure,
That's a problem.
I'll take away your water.
the penalties and failure to comply is on your screen right now.
Maybe I've never
Suspension,
been late, I don't know, I guess
Yeah.
but I
And-
certainly don't ever.
You know, as you well know personally, you know, with Commissioner Campo, I mean, there have been, I heard one report a week ago that 66 people statewide had resigned. I think it might even be higher than that. I know in the South Florida, Treasure Coast, Palm Beach County region, I can count at least a dozen people that, from clients of ours that have resigned over this. So it's, you know, it's definitely caused havoc. It's particularly if you're an attorney, for example. A lot of attorneys have resigned because their concern is they've got to report income from clients. Does that mean you have to identify the client, and you're prohibited from identifying the client? So you're stuck between the rock and the hard place. And I think a few other professionals have had that. So there's still talk that there might be some glitch bill. I doubt it's going to be filed this year. I mean, they're already almost halfway through the session, and I haven't seen anything about that yet. So it's, as you all heard me say, this is another way the legislature shows their love of local government.
Yeah.
Just keep pouring on that love.
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to add and maybe ask Glenn a question too. When we were at a meeting of the League of Cities, it came up about, I think it's Port St. Lucie is looking at if they can pay for their elected officials to have assistance in filing the form. And I don't know if they had found anything out on that, or,
I think pretty much the answer is no. I mean, it's a hard question because on the one hand, you're allowed to spend taxpayers' dollars to go to seminars to learn about this, right? You could go to a League of Cities conference registration fee might be $100, and that's certainly acceptable. Then the question becomes, well, but can you use taxpayer funds to pay to have an accountant, for example, help you fill this out? And where the line seems to be, is this more like a campaign? Which it's not. You're really an elected official. So there's no definitive answer on that. I mean, the safer course from the government standpoint is to say, we really shouldn't be getting involved in your personal decisions as to whether you're filing X, Y, Z. So, you know, my conservative advice is no, don't have towns do that. But unless someone gets an Attorney General opinion or Commission Ethics opinion clarifying it, I can't advise that you spend local money to, you know.
well, I kind of look at it a little bit different way than even was mentioned, but if the commission was to get sued or a commissioner was to get sued, generally there's an attorney that's provided to that commissioner, so that's legal assistance. And, you know, this would be legal assistance in a requirement, especially since they're volunteers. And so, you know, I don't know, you know, if there's something I should craft and ask, or is that something I should let Port St. Lucie, like
Yeah,
the
I mean,
battle.
Port St. Lucie's got a bigger budget than we do. I'd say let them, and I think she was pretty insistent.
Oh, she was.
On getting that done, so I have
Yeah.
a feeling she will follow through. I'm sure all three of us will see her at the next Treasure Coast and follow up with her, and if not, we can always do that. But I think she's looking to get that answer.
Okay, any other questions on Form 6? I guess we've talked about this a lot, now it's time to take a crack at actually filling it out.
Right, and hopefully we tried to beef this up, the previous presentation all about Form 6 is coming. This hopefully has some more detailed information about what's covered, what's not covered, what the deadlines are. So this is, our latest, greatest, most comprehensive that we're presenting all over the place about Form 6.
Thank you.
Thanks, Len. That brings us down to commission and staff closing comments. Mr. Daniels.
Yes, I'd like to ask our lobbyist and grant writer to come up, and you'll see at your place, there's a matrix of the grants that we have, and I'm going to ask Chloe to walk us through that.
Hey everybody, I'm Chloe Sewall. I'm your grants consultant. So upon request, I've put together a running working log. I'd like you guys to view this as a living document. And so far, it has the main grants that we have applied for and been awarded since I started to work with you all. And then I have a running total, so you can kind of keep in your mind what the program is bringing in. And then you can also see there's some that we're still waiting to hear back on. There's a few that are about to be submitted or in the works. And I've included a section on notes to provide feedback. And so I would like to provide updates for this, updates to this log regularly for you all so that you can see the program and you can also see where we've gone and where we're going. I think it would help you all visualize what are the project priorities, what's been accomplished, and where you guys need to move on next. And so the next iteration of this log, if you all are good with it or if you guys want to provide some direct feedback, that'd be really beneficial for me. But the next iteration, I think, will have some more proposed grants to look forward to, and also put some of the proposed projects that you all have had between meetings and strategic planning so that we can start searching for programs to plug and apply for.
Any questions?
I'm wondering if, we can plan on seeing this, about second meeting at every month or first meeting every month, whatever the
Like that.
commission would like to see. But I'd like to make sure that we see this once a month at least, and understand where we are. The other thing I've been thinking about a little bit is if there's some, if there's some lobbying that the commissioners and myself can help out with in terms of talking to some of our legislators. And if there is, I think, we need some identification of that so we can certainly get up there and help or make some phone calls or something like that. A lot of this is not just filling out the forms, but doing the necessary
Contacts.
begging, or I'm sorry, contacts, that kind of thing, yes. So if there's, I'd certainly like to be part of that, and I think, we have other commissioners here that would be delighted to help with that as well, so.
I'll chat with Chloe about that, and we'll see when's the best opportunity that we can get the most bang for our buck. So.
Okay. Vice Mayor Fender.
Thanks, Mayor. Hi, Chloe. Thanks for this. It's very detailed, and I appreciate it. I just went through and quickly just drew a line on between the years on dates submitted, so I can see the ones submitted 2021, the ones
Okay.
submitted 2022, the ones submitted 2023. So that's where I'm focusing right now is 2023. Looks like there are 4 there, and one of them denied, looks like, but the others are all TBDs. Since they were all in the last fiscal or legislative year, I'm not quite sure how it works. When might we know on the TBDs on the 2023 submissions?
So I just had a discussion last week, and that's how I found out about the septic to sewer not being funded, the additional funding for the project. from what feedback I got, the Resilient Grant Program hasn't been announced yet because they have a hang up on one project that was supposed to be funded in budget language that the department disagreed with, so they're trying to work through some legality there before they announce the projects. So hopefully soon. And then the other project, which is a water quality, I think we'll know soon whether there's funding or not for South River Road. I believe that is also going to be, we have a couple more grants. So if we're not lucky in this cycle for it, or we're not receiving funding, we have additional funds to try to get funding for that project. Outlook, we have an outlook for it.
Okay. Well, so in 2023, those are all big numbers, right? I mean, I recall in the past, just from being here for a while, that we submit a lot for smaller numbered grants. Are we out of that business now? There's no small grants or are those somehow aggregated together is why I'm looking at that list.
No, so we just did, so you guys have very expensive projects. So we're trying to get those fully funded, and then the cost of projects is just going up.
Yeah.
Because that's the economy that we live in. So if you look on the IRL Council, we just did a $169,000 grant to help offset the cost of connection for your septic to sewer
I
project.
see it there.
So no, we're still going after small ones. The Arbor Day tree grant is going to be smaller. There's a DOT grant that should be opening up in a couple of months that they do annually. It's a beautification grant, so for trees too. So that'll be on the smaller end. And then I know we've had discussions from the last meeting and then your strategic planning that you guys have a couple other projects that are smaller in nature. They're not these massive road projects. And so we'll probably do some more of those now that we've got a handle on some of the main priorities. But the way I like to explain it is because I'm a boutique shop and I'm one person, I like to have a rifle approach versus a shotgun approach. And so now that we've had some precision on some of these top priorities for you all, now we can start to expand more that where we've got some momentum.
Okay. Thanks for that. I see now I'm looking at the last one on the list is actually at 2023 as well. So I'm sorting these by date submitted.
Yeah.
I don't know how you sorted them, but
No, that's a great suggestion. I'll make it clear so that you guys can see annually what y'all are bringing in and what y'all have focused on.
and what's also kind of helpful is, risk probability, I don't know, maybe you have a sense at all of what the chance of winning any of these are? Or which one is which one you would think would be higher
So
probability than another?
the way I see it is more of, instead of looking at the program, because you're dealing with a government entity that they're in charge, and then, okay, let me go back on that one. One, I think if you're talking about a state agency versus a state appropriation versus a federal agency, your state agency is your best bet. I think you have the best line of communication towards them. I think that there's just bigger funding pots that are very specific to our state communities. So, and you guys are very well stationed being on the Indian River Lagoon for a lot of those dollars. So that's the first thing. I would always prioritize state money or state agency money, because sometimes it's federal money. Second, on that front, I think that the better approach isn't let's hope that in this specific grant program or in this specific cycle we get funded. It's more of what's our timeline. So like, for instance, phase 3, you guys were all appropriated originally $3.4 million for it, and then because you all went out to bid and that number went up significantly just because of the cost of materials, the cost of construction, everything. Now, in order to spend that grant, and I believe it needs to be spent by 2026, you need a certain specific amount more. And so in my brain organizationally, it's more beneficial to say, okay, we're trying for this specific cycle. If not, having that discussion with DEP to help them tailor, how do we get the funding so that we can partner with the state to go forward with the money already allotted and get this project off the list. And I know that's like a long-winded way. It's hard to gauge just because there's politics at play even in an agency. And it is a competitive process. I also want to put out Sewell's Point, in my opinion, swept last year in a great way. You guys were the highest. I think Miami-Dade had one more project that was more expensive than you guys. And so I think that is something that they consider, where perhaps giving you guys another $12 million in this specific cycle might look a certain way or they're trying to divvy it to the communities. But I don't think that that means you're out of funding for that entire year cycle. Like, I still believe that phase 3 can get fully funded. We just need to potentially be more patient. But I am still hopeful. We're waiting to hear back. But I just want to manage expectations that there's more behind the scenes than just the project being good enough or having enough advocacy.
Okay.
They call that politics.
Yeah. It's funny you learn that you think that the bureaucracy or the agency is separate, but it is very political. But I have to give kudos to our state agencies. There's some really intelligent people that are very science-based and very passionate about these projects working behind the scenes. So great people to work with, even if politics is at play.
Mr. Kurzman.
Hey, Chloe. Do you think it's advantageous when these come up over in Tallahassee to have our commissioners and/or our town manager go and lobby for us as well?
So my personal opinion on that is right now, you guys have a really strong legislative team. And so I feel very good with the work that you all have done and the communication you all have done, that they grasp the projects, they grasp enough to advocate to the end. We saw that last fiscal year where there was a $1 million appropriation sponsored by Senator Harrell and Representative Snyder. And then you also have Representative Oberdorf backing you all. And so I think right now, the best bet would be to continue communication when they're out of session, so prior and after, when they're in the district. I think that'll be the most efficient way of doing that. And then 2, I think continuing to keep the finger on the pulse with the agency. And so I was talking to Bob of when session's over, let's gear back up with the agencies to really truly express the needs. And Bob can tell you firsthand, the staff has a lot of dialogue with the state agencies so far, and the town manager has also worked closely with our representatives. I know right before Representative Oberdorf went to Tallahassee, we sat down recently with him, and there's a constant dialogue already happening. So long-winded response to, I think if there's a immediate need, absolutely, I will alert you all on that front, but I think right now it is being covered by the elected, by the state elected officials.
I've got a little bit of a stupid question. I'm looking at the one here that talks about that DEP indicated that only septic to sewer projects with mandatory hookups will be funded in this cycle. And I look at, $4 million, and I'm thinking that, hey, I've got 600 or so properties at maybe $9,000 a hookup, and that's, $5.5 million. And I'm wondering if this makes any sense. Trust me, I don't desire to go back and talk about mandatory hookups. We've already made a decision on that, but I'm wondering if does it make sense to maybe think about doing something there? I mean, if we get the $4 million, we'd essentially have enough to pay for the actual hookups. We already have essentially enough for the in the $8.5 million to get the main piping and the laterals out. So it's only really a question of the actual hookups. And Frank's laughing at me, and I know why, but that's okay. Commissioner Mayfield.
Yeah, I have a question about what you're saying because I actually thought of something maybe like it, but the mandatory hookup thing is real, and that is what the commission overall has said. But if a mandatory hookup was paid for, maybe it doesn't feel so mandatory to some people. Is that what you're saying? Like if you got the money to pay for a mandatory hookup, maybe that would alleviate some of people's hesitancy. Understandably, they don't want to hook up mandatorily because all of a sudden they have to pay the money. But if they had to hook up, but there was money from a grant, is that the kind of, or is it like you still have to put in your skin in the game?
No, that's what I was thinking. Can we use that money strictly for hookups?
So we could delve into the fine print, but the way we got the 8.4 was by matching it with hookup costs.
Yeah.
So you have to have a match to a degree. So that was the match that we said. So if we could figure out a different way to offset it, and then there's obviously ways to go, like for instance, I'm going to get really in the weeds right now, so I'm going to try not to. But there's another federal grant that we may apply for a portion of the road raising for. And in that, we might be able to include stipulations about the septic to sewer, so we might be able to get some more money for it. And so potentially, depending on the stipulations in the grant, that could count as match versus just having a local match of hookup. And then, yes, you just have to show something else to match it with.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I was just thinking out loud. I'm not making
I-
any,
I've-
not
I've
making
thought
any-
that-
not making any recommendations here.
Neither am I.
Vice Mayor Fender.
Yeah, I'm just going to try to pull us out of the weeds, out of the tailspin there for a second, because, I feel compelled, given the small audience, that we got here on a whole house of cards, and to entertain that conversation might just fill this room back up with seats back up. So I'll just go on record and say, the word mandatory is mandatory, and the people that are not here fighting for a non-mandatory hookup are not here fighting because we worked really hard to make it clear to them that all the stipulations that we went through, the massive amounts of presentations that Joe did, the town hall meetings that we had to appease those questions, were that we're moving forward because we are not using the term mandatory and we are not invoking a mandatory hookup. So I just want to make it clear that anybody listening on YouTube or that's going to replay this record in the future understands that at least I am still on a strong proponent of a non-mandatory for those folks who don't want to be forced into a mandatory hookup. I'll preface that by saying that I am very pro-septic to sewer, but I'm also pro-constituency as well. So I'll be voting in favor of septic sewer. I will not be voting in favor of a mandatory hookup for, even if we can get it for free. Even unless I can get them to come back to the table and say, yeah, we're all on board for a free mandatory hookup. But I don't believe that will actually happen. I believe there'll be pitchforks and torches ready to tar and feather me, right? Just so we're clear.
Commissioner Mayfield?
Yes, no, I understand why you said that, and I can't say that you're wrong. I'm just saying it's important to ask questions. Everyone already knows that I'm probably the one who's said the most about getting septic to sewer and exploring all the options, so I think it's smart to just explore the options and be smart and try to see what you can accomplish with the money. And I also want to reemphasize, because sometimes I think we forget, that Sewell's Point with that $8.4 million has the ability to give everybody sewer if the county would change their policy. And that thing is a little bit frustrating to me that we have the money. Anyways, we've already been there, but I still want to reiterate to our constituents that it's not us holding us up in that capacity, it's the inability to come to an agreement, so.
And I think it's important to note too that IRL council grant, for instance, that's not towards the overall project, that's to help subsidize hookup costs for residents. When they come in, they'll get something off of that cost. So the town staff is very much oriented in how do we get that number down.
Do you have anything else you want to add?
Yeah, well, not on that topic. I had my button on before that
Okay.
came up. I
All right, thank you.
would like to talk to.
Okay, I'll apologize for thinking out loud. I won't do that again.
You don't need to
No,
apologize.
I appreciate it, it was a good question.
What
It's
we
a good
talk about, I
question.
just want
No,
to make people understand that we're just
no,
talking.
and I agree with that. I'm not suggesting anything. I was just kind of,
But this is the only time we get to talk to each other, so that is the right place to do it, if you ask
This
my
is true.
opinion.
this is true.
I just wanted to be clear.
Any other questions for Chloe?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Oh, so back to the very first thing I said to you was that I don't see small grants on here. And what I'd like to reiterate is that I'm looking for a small grant to repair a dock that is, I think it's fined or something, but we have property that we own behind our STA, what do we call that thing, the SSA
Yeah,
or
STA.
STA, that I would love to see that dock repaired so that the community could use it to watch the sun rise, I guess, or sit out there and breathe salt air. So if we can find a grant to do that, that'd be super helpful. In addition, I think you did mention something about a tree grant. That'd also be good to see on.
What I will do is, because we want to update this monthly, I will put underneath, I will put future projects. And I'm going to go through, I already started and I didn't find anything in my initial search, just on some stuff. I will go through and I will either find an open grant cycle for something like that, or I will find, like for instance, DEP Parks and Recreation has money for that. And so their grant cycle will open back up again, probably August. July, August. So I'll put that too and proposed potential time of opening, so you can see, okay, we've got 3 potential applications that can go in for that project.
Awesome. I just didn't want to fall through the cracks.
No,
I appreciate it.
I'll put that
Nice
on the
work, by
update.
way. It looks awesome.
Yes, thank you for making this.
Are any other questions for Chloe? Okay, are there any other general commissioner comments?
Oh, I have a,
Commissioner Kurzman?
Yeah, one thing I wanted, tonight I was shocked to see how much money our building department, and specifically our assistant to the building inspector, has saved the town. And people say, how could you pay somebody all that money? Which really isn't a lot. I mean, that person pays more than for themselves. Our building inspector pays for himself. Realistically, they're making the town money. And to uncover errors where you're actually getting money back, I feel that our employees that we have right now are very underappreciated by a lot of people. And I'm sure some of the commissioners hear this too. You know, the town's paying out too much money for employees, but you're buying competence and experience and people that actually love coming to work for us. And it means a lot. It's not just a paycheck. And I don't have that impression from any one of the employees that are employed here. And everybody gives 110%, and kudos to each one of the employees that works here. I really feel we're more than getting our money's worth, and they pay for themselves. You may not see it, but the town manager has found us money, a way to save money. The building department, as we just mentioned, we have our town clerk. You can't get better than what we have here. And, you know, our finance director, all around, I'm very impressed with what we have, and I wouldn't trade him for anybody else.
Thank you for your comments, and I wouldn't trade them for anybody else either.
Commissioner Mayfield?
yes, I was really excited to see, and I still am excited to see the work that's actually occurring now. Projects are happening, and I appreciate all the residents putting up with any disruptions that are there, but I think they're hopefully kept as minimal as possible. And I believe, Town Manager, you said that is the septic to sewer start, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then that leads me to my next question. I know that there was still bidding stuff, but I'm always looking for an update on when the road project is going to begin. Can you give us a?
Yeah, I was going to ask you if you could get Joe to come into the next meeting and give us a...
Yeah, I was expecting him tonight, but I know he'll be at the next meeting. A lot of it was funding, as you know, Chloe had mentioned, and we're almost there. And depending upon what information we get from the resiliency grants, which we're hoping to hear from shortly, but I think we're ready to go out to bid. And then, you know, it's like a 3-month cycle.
Okay.
So from the time we go out to bid to the time we can get to an agreement with a contract and bring it back to y'all is probably going to be about 3 months.
Okay. Do you feel good about this bid process coming up compared to the
Yes.
last one? Okay.
Yes. So I think we've taken a lot of measures, and we're looking for other ways that we can save money in the project. Not to skimp on anything, but to just look at things as efficiently as we can.
Okay, thank you.
Vice Mayor Fender?
Yeah, just totally off topic, and I haven't heard any activity outside of the town or in or with the organizations involved, but it's January 23rd. The Marathon of the Treasure Coast is always the first weekend in March. That's like 5-6 weeks away. I'll ask them if they've done all the things that they need to do with...
Yes, they have.
They have?
Yes.
Oh, good to hear. All right, so good. I'm obviously a proponent of the health benefits of the endurance community in town, so I'm glad to hear that.
And I will have a full report for you at the next meeting.
Oh, okay.
Okay, any other comments or input? If not, we have a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
We're adjourned. Thank you.